Is it infidelity if you're having an online relationship with someone else? Answering this is so complex. It really depends on the values that you have in your relationship. So as you notice, I was like scratching my arm because I'm like, God, this is a hard conversation. So most people would agree that if you kiss somebody that's not in your relationship and that's not an acceptable way of being monogamous for you, then that's like cheating. Or if you have sex with somebody, most people would agree, yeah, that's cheating. Somebody outside of the relationship, obviously not your partner. That's in your typical monogamous relationship. But people in an online relationship aren't kissing. They aren't having sex with each other. They're mentally maybe cybersexting or flirting or building long-term relationships. And it really speaks to the idea of, is it an emotional affair? And is an emotional affair okay? I'm not okay. And when does it become an emotional affair? So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what are the agreed upon boundaries in my relationship with my partner? And that's actually where the most trickiness happens. So when couples come into me for these emotional affairs of sorts, they haven't discussed it. They haven't talked to each other about what is an emotional affair. When does it feel like something is crossing a line in our relationship? So the answer is, it depends. And if you want to get more clarity and understanding of each other, then you're going to have to start having very honest, direct conversations with each other about when does it feel like something is crossing a line emotionally and when does it not. There are people who think it's perfectly fine to have relationships, emotional relationships, friendship, platonic relationships with other people, whether they are in a pseudo online world or in real life. But there are specific boundaries that people need to clarify with each other about when does this feel like it's crossing a line. And so the hard thing is that on these online relationships, you can't touch each other, you can't kiss, you can't have sex. Other than the talk, but it's typing sex. So it's like, okay, it's a fantasy world in here, but really your bodies aren't making any contact. And so even with that though, that feeling, there's sensations that we create associated with, like, I want to do this with you, or I'm going to take your clothes off, or like, think of that. Like, even hearing that, you feel a little like, that feels kind of interesting or exciting, or are we supposed to feel that way? There's taboo to it, right? And so there are just no easy answers. I'm not going to be able to give you like a clear, like, yes, it is, or no, it isn't. It depends on your values. It depends on how you set boundaries in your relationship. And what I really want for all of my couples is to learn to be more clear with each other about whatever those boundaries are, but also to develop a little comfort in yourself for things that aren't so black and white. We live in a world that's very gray, and we have this whole time, by the way. It's so funny to me when I talk to people, they're like, this wasn't the way it was before. And I'm like, no, relationships have been complex since the end of time. There isn't a true black and white. There are lots of areas of gray. And what's most important is that you two have conversations about how much time you spend with people, what conversations feel like they're in like that platonic okay space versus what conversations feel a little more crossing a boundary for us. What kinds of play is okay and what kinds of play just feels uncomfortable or I need to learn to be comfortable with. And the reality is more of you are considering like monogamish worlds or open non-monogamy. And so like one way that people do explore non-monogamy in an ethical way is by having these games or forums to explore and be a little sexual, but just in a mind space, not necessarily using bodies. So even that, is if that's how you lean and you're interested in that kind of monogamish space, but you just need to talk to each other and be direct with each other about what you want. And it's not all about the other partner setting boundaries, right? Like you as the person playing the game need to consider what is important to you about the game or that forum and what you need for yourself or what you're hoping to get out of it for yourself. Because there are things, like for example, if you have a partner who's not very good at like storytelling and fantasy is a part of your sexuality, that might be what you're getting out of this, that like your partner's just not very good at. If you're open with each other about that eroticism of like, hey, I think it's sexy to tell a story. If your partner can be open to that, like, I see what you're saying. You're interested in like erotic storytelling. I'm not as into that, but this can be a forum for that. This could be a way that you guys connect. So if you would like more information or to get help, please submit a contact form at therapist@stlouis.com. Please like and subscribe and submit some comments below.